in community policing. The questions by the Honourable Member for Kitui West will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. The member for Gishugu, Honourable Chimu Githinji, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation to provide details regarding the source, design, network and volumes of the Mega Kutus water supply project being undertaken by Tana Water Services Board in Kirinyaga County. Are the volumes of water sufficient in the said project enough to cover other areas other than the ones covered in the current design for equitable sharing of the said natural resource as envisioned in Article 69, subsection 1 of the Constitution? Could the ministry consider designing another network for supply of water under the said project to Gishugu residents in the neighboring Kabare and Baragui wards? The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. The member for Sigowet Soin, Honorable Kipserenget Koros, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works what criteria is used to allocate the roads maintenance levy fund to the counties. Also, could the Cabinet Secretary explain whether the same criteria applies to the reallocation of the county roads maintenance levy fund among the various constituencies of the same county, and how much money allocated from the fund to Sigowet Soin constituency received for the last 5 years, and how much was disbursed? The question by the Honourable Member for Sigowet Soin will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The member for Nakuru Town East, Honourable David Gikaria, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Environment 3 questions. Among them, the Cabinet Secretary should explain the cause of the recent black rain, that was experienced at Kabatini in Lanet Umoja Ward in Nakuru County. And could the Cabinet Secretary explain the health risk, if any, that the black rain poses to the ecosystem? What steps the ministry has undertaken to ensure caution? The public from the risk associated with the black rain, and whether there are any compensation mechanisms to the affected residents? The question by the Honourable Member will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. If you're just joining us, the business of the National Assembly this morning is about to begin, and on your screen is some activity, and I will be handing you over for this live broadcast, which is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit, PBU, in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Edward Kabasem. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing.
Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, twakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba ututeremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amina. I direct that the quorum bell shall be rung for 10 minutes.
There is not enough members in the chambers this morning to allow business of the National Assembly to commence. And so the presiding chair, Christopher Mulele, has ordered that the quorum bell be rung. What happens in the background is that respective leadership of the House will be mobilizing their members to walk into the chambers. The number required for business of the National Assembly to commence is 50. That is according to the provisions of the Standing Order number 34 of the National Assembly. And that number, 50, is what is required for business of the National Assembly to begin. In the next couple of minutes, the respective leadership of the House, this includes the majority and the minority, will be whipping their members to take a seat or take their seats in the chamber and in the extended chambers to allow business of the National Assembly to begin. As we wait for that, we'll take a look at other questions which will be asked in the chamber or in the National Assembly this morning. The member for Lurambi constituency, Honorable Titus Hamala, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works whether or not the CS is aware that the road classified as C41 connecting Lurambi and Navaholo constituencies was swept away by heavy rains and landslides, thus paralyzing transport and communication between the two constituencies. What steps the Cabinet Secretary is taking to expedite the construction of the said road, and in particular the 3-kilometer stretch from Lurambi to Shikoti, which is in deplorable state. What is the construction of the road expected? When is the construction of the road expected to commence and expected to be completed, considering that the contractor left the site over 1 year ago? The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The member for Igembe South constituency, Honorable John Paul Mwirigi, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Land and Physical Planning, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the ownership and the number of all parcel of land set aside for public use in Maua Township in Igembe South constituency? What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that all public land is safeguarded against irregular location and grabbing by individuals for future development? The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. The member for Westlands constituency, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, has a number of questions which he will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. Among them, could the Cabinet Secretary explain what causes power outages in Gigiri, Runda, and the wider Karura environs every evening at around 6 o'clock, leading to damage of electronic appliances for both commercial and household use? What measures are in place to compensate the affected households with respect to damaged appliances? Could the Cabinet Secretary further explains why Kenya Power levies prepaid electricity consumers on the basis of the amount of units purchased over a 3-month period as opposed to the total units consumed during the same period, contrary to regulations? Could the Cabinet Secretary also explain why the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has failed to address the concerns of consumers regarding billing, and more specifically, the consumer of the Kenya Power prepaid account number 014505400107? And finally, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of electricity customers who have been reimbursed by Kenya Power upon the intervention of the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority for wrong billing during the last financial year, 2019-2020? The questions by the Honourable Member for Westlands constituency will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Energy. We are still waiting for the House to quorate, and currently the quorum bell is being rung. This is courtesy of Standing Order 34 of the National Assembly. The number required for business of the National Assembly to begin is 50. The members are observing social distancing, so that means that the main chamber can only accommodate a particular number of members. Others have been provided with an extended chamber, which includes the lounge, as well as a tent which has been erected outside the Parliament, the chamber of the National Assembly. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. A quick recap of the business which will be transacted this morning. The Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill will be considered in the Committee of the Whole House. A number of amendments to this bill by the Honourable Member Andrew Madime have been proposed, and those amendments will be considered by the members in the Committee of the Whole House. Later, the members will vote on whether or not this bill should be read for the first time. The Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, has also been lined up for debate. The debate on this had already begun, and it will resume this morning. The balance of time remaining there is 2 hours 23 minutes. There, more members are walking into the chamber to take their seats and help the House curate. Other bills which have been lined up for debate include the National Disaster Management Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2019, the Land Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 69 of 2019, the Crops Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2019, the Labour Relations Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 18 of 2019.
Order. Honourable members, we have the requisite numbers now. We can transact business. Members, calm down so that we transact business.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
Order. Honourable members. Honourable members. Order. Honourable members, probably let me allow you to take the lady members to take their seats. Very well. Honourable members, this is a message from the Senate, number 8 of 2020, passage of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2020. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 41, I wish to report to the House that I have received a message from the Senate regarding its passage of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2020. Honourable members, the message reads in part, and I quote, "The Senate considered and passed the said bill on Tuesday, 29th September 2020 with amendments." Honourable members, the County Allocation of Revenue Bill is an annual legislation introduced in accordance with the provisions of Article 218 of the Constitution, with the objective of equitably allocating the share of national revenue among the 47 counties. Given the urgency of the passage of this bill, and in furtherance to the provisions of Standing Order 124-2A, the Budget and Appropriations Committee is directed to expedite consideration of the bill to enable the House to consider the bill in all stages during the sitting of Tuesday, October 6th, 2020, and unlock the budget processes in the 47 counties. Honourable members, may I also take this opportunity to remind the House of the provisions of Article 111, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, which provides the voting thresholds for amending a special bill. And I quote, the National Assembly may amend or veto a special bill that has been passed by the Senate only by a resolution supported by at least 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly. A county allocation of revenue bill is a special bill concerning county governments in terms of Article 110, Sub-Article 2A, Roman 2 of the Constitution. This implies that any amendment proposed in this House on the bill shall require to be supported by at least 2/3 of all the members of this House for it to pass. The House is accordingly guided. I thank you.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, the first question is by the Honorable Robert Moy, member for Kathiani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 181 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning. Number 1, Mr. Speaker, what measures has the ministry put in place to curb the rampant land adjudication malpractices across the country? Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why Mr. Richard Mwanzia Mwenga of personal identification number of 19940300631 and ID number 1157121 was dismissed as a land adjudication officer, and whether due process was followed in dismissing him? And 3, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the policy measures for remunerating land adjudication officers? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that question will be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Land. Second question is by the Honorable Kalicha Gufo, member for Moyale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 194 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary state whether any investigation were carried out into this recent attack on Funan Ida village in Sololo Sub-County, Moyale constituency by unknown assailants? 2, what measures has been put in place by the ministry to curb the increased cases of insecurity in Funanida, Funankumbi, Elebor, and Dimtu villages, and in particular from external attackers? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary state why the administration unit that were approved and gazetted on 21st June 2017 are yet to be effected in the country and in particular in Moyale constituency? And what action is the ministry taking to ensure the units are functional in order to bring services closer to the people? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. The next question is by the Honorable Edith Nyenze, member for Kitui West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 212 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Question number 1, what facilitation, if any, has the ministry provided to village elders for the effective provision of vital services to communities, considering that they use personal resources to carry out various administrative duties. Question number 2, what measures are in place to ensure their security considering their role in community policing? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. The next question is by the Honorable Gishimo Githinji, member for Gishogu. And if you could, yes, you have the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 217 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Question number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details regarding source, design, network, and volumes of the mega Kerugoya Kutu's water supply project being undertaken by Tana Water Services Board in Kirinyaga County? 2, are the volumes of water sufficient in the said project enough to cover other areas other than the ones covered in the current design for equitable sharing of the said natural resource as envisioned in Article 69(1) of the Constitution? 3, could the ministry consider designing another network for supply of water under the said project to Geshogo residents in the neighboring Kabare and Baragwe wards? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That question will be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. The next question is by the Honorable Kipsengeret Koros, member for Sigowet Soin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 222 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. 1, would the Cabinet Secretary state criteria used to allocate the roads maintenance levy fund to the counties? Could the Cabinet Secretary explain whether the same criteria applies to the reallocation of the country roads maintenance levy fund among the various constituencies of the same county? 3rd, how much money allocated from the fund has Sigawet Soin constituency received for the last 5 years, and how much was dispersed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very good. That question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The next question is by the Honorable David Gikaria, member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 227 of 2020. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary, this is addressed to the, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the cause of the recent black rain that was experienced at Kabatini in Lanetu Moja Ward in Nakuru County? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the health risk, if any, that the black rain poses to the ecosystem? And 3, what steps the ministry has undertaken to ensure caution the public from the risks associated with black rain, and whether there was any compensation mechanism to the affected residents? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That question will be responded before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. The next question is by the Honorable Titus Kamala, member for Lurambi.
Honorable Speaker, my question 229 of 2020, question Roman 1, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that the road classified as C41 connecting Lurambi and Navajo constituencies was swept away by heavy rains and landslides, thus paralyzing transport and communication between the two constituencies? Question Roman 2, Honorable Speaker, what steps is the Cabinet Secretary taking to expedite the construction of the said road, and in particular, the stretch between Lurambi and Shikoti and Machembe, which is in deplorable state? Question Roman 3, when is the construction of the road expected to commence and expected to be completed, considering that the contractor left the site over 1 year ago? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done. That question will be responded before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The next question is by the Honorable John Paul Murigi, member for Igembe South. The Honorable John Murigi.
Thank you. I rise to ask the question number 232 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide for the status of ownership and the number of all parcels of land set aside for public use in Maua Township in Igembe South constituency? What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that all public land is safeguarded against irregular allocation and grabbing by individuals for future development? I thank you.
That question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Lands. The next question is by the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, member for Westlands constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask question number 234 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain what causes power outages in Gigiri, Runda, and the wider Karura environs every evening at around 6 o'clock, leading to damage of electronic appliances for both commercial and household use? Roman 2, what measures are in place to compensate the affected households with respect to damaged appliances? Roman 3, could the Cabinet Secretary further explain why Kenya Power levies prepaid electricity consumers on the basis of the amount of units purchased over a 3-month period as opposed to the total units consumed during the same period, contrary to regulations? Roman 4, to explain why the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has failed to address the concerns of consumers regarding billing, and more specifically, the consumer of Kenya Power prepaid account number 0145 054 0107. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of electricity customers who have been reimbursed by the Kenya Power upon the intervention of the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority for a wrong billing during the last financial year, 2019-2020? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, the Honorable Wanyonyi, that is my MP, and this is a problem that that area has. Yes, a good question. It will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Energy. All right. Next order. No, we shall deal, yes, within the same order, we shall deal with statements. And the first go will be the Honorable Godfrey Osotsi, requesting a statement concerning the IFMI system. The Honorable Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning regarding the Integrated Financial Management Information System, popularly known as the IFMIS, as contained in the report of the Auditor General on the system's effectiveness for the period July 2010 to June 2014, as published in November 2016. Honorable Speaker, IFMIS is a very critical system that is meant to enhance efficiency in planning, budgeting, procurement, expenditure, and reporting. It is also meant to be an end-to-end platform to enhance accountability in government expenditure and related agencies. The report of the Auditor General on IFMIS effectiveness for the period July 2010 to June 2014 made fundamental observations and recommendations touching on, among others, the system security management, administration, stability, performance, integrity, reliability, business continuity, data recovery, and network infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, there has been allegations that in May 2019, IFMIS erroneously misallocated 10 billion shillings to county governments, which was reflected as allocated severally in various scandals, including the National Youth Service scandal. In addition, there has been numerous allegations that the system has been hacked into several times due to, among other concerns, weak and inadequate internal control, lack of functioning audit trail, poor management of users' access by unauthorized users, negligence regarding the basic system security procedures, non-existent data safeguards, occasioning the loss of public funds. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and Planning on the following. 1, what efforts have been made with regard to the numerous allegations and concerns regarding the system which has occasioned massive loss of public funds? 2, explain why the system has not been customized or upgraded in line with the 2 levels of government, as was recommended by the report of the Auditor General under reference. 3, what is the organizational structure of the system management and administration, indicating the staffing and the corresponding qualification and work experience of staff? 4, to provide detailed information on the existing support contracts, software licensing, vendor payment performance, actual benefits and value for money from these vendors. 5, explain when the system will be aligned to the requirements of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act, particularly in regards to the critical information, infrastructure, and data. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Sothi is a man of systems. On this one, I will allow the first bite to it by the Honorable Kisang, the member for Marquette West, who is also the chairman of ICT, to just make a comment.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a very good statement by Honorable Sothi, who is a member of my committee. And IFMIS is a system that has been in place since 2001, and over time, they have graded this particular system. And from the report from the Auditor General, Honorable Speaker, there are issues that we need to inquire. In fact, I expect that this should have been actually an inquiry, another statement, because I don't believe the statement from the relevant ministry will be enough. If I propose also, Speaker, that even as the Departmental Committee on Finance and Planning, maybe call the CS National Treasury to report on this, I would wish that we also enjoined the Minister of ICT and the Committee on ICT, Honorable Speaker, because the expert committee in this House on systems is the ICT committee. Secondly, the Minister of ICT is basically is the one that is implementing ICT solutions in the country on shared services. What I wanted to propose also, Honorable Speaker, is IPMIS is a critical system, as also other systems in the ICT sector are critical infrastructure, like fiber optic and the others. So what I wanted, Honorable Speaker, is basically we need, apart from seeking for a statement, we need to inquire, because over time we have been told there are several resources or funds that have been lost through IPMIS, as mentioned by Honorable Sotsi during the National Youth Service issues, funds, a scandal that was there in the past, and many others. So maybe we need to look into this and maybe assist and also give them some recommendations on how to ensure the system is security proof, watertight, so that people cannot, who have malicious intentions, hack into the system and we lose resources. So ours is basically to look into this and give proposals on how to improve. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I've said we enjoined the ICT committee so that we can assist the planning and the finance committee, because they are not the experts. Out of the 19 members of ICT committee, we have about 9 members who are experts in the sector in ICT. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Kisang, what you're saying really is really important for the nation. If we are losing money to the magnitude that the Honorable Sotsi has mentioned in his statement, the tens of billions from 2010 only to 2014, and this is a system this country has invested also billions in. I think it's a very serious matter that I think that your committee, as the ICT committee chair, this is an inquiry that is squarely in your area, in your lap, in your court, and probably you should take it up, because if this statement, in the manner that the Honorable Sotsi, my brother, has sought it, probably the minister will just come and deliver a statement without too many questions being put to him. So it is a challenge to you and your committee to probably look into it so that we can have a proper inquiry and even an audit of the whole system, so that we can have a comprehensive report as you seem to seek. The Honorable Kisang?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We will take it up.
Thank you. I'll allow the Honorable Wahungu Wamalwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable
Mr.
members,
Speaker,
the Honorable Wamalwa,
Mr.
just before you go on, Honorable members, I just wish to remind you that we are still in the danger zone as far as this pandemic is concerned. Yeah, please let us just observe the rules. It is important for us as leaders to make sure that we are safe and we take care of ourselves and the others also. The Honorable Amalwa, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you can
Leader
see,
of minority.
As you can see, I've put on the masks.
Yes.
Mr.
Please.
Speaker, complete. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious statement, particularly on matters of financial. IFMIS, its name, Integrated Financial Management Information System. Integration means, Mr. Speaker, it's connectivity. And many times, this system has been abused. And I agree with Honorable Sosi. The report that was given by the Auditor General, Mr. Speaker, one of the issues that was supposed to be addressed is to be customized to the 2 levels of government. And it should also be customized to the 3 arms of government. Many times, Mr. Speaker, Treasury has abused this IFMIS. It's like a tap, open and close. Many times, Mr. Speaker, there are delays of salaries, and we are told IFMIS has not been opened. So it seems there's somebody somewhere in Treasury who is using this IFMIS like a tap of water. You open and you close, Mr. Speaker. We've seen even the judiciary complaining that at times they open that tap of IFMIS. Within a short period, they have not even finished their procurement process. When you want to spend the money, it is closed. In fact, you should go further. Not just an inquiry, but to bring a motion, Mr. Speaker. This thing, IFMIS, is supposed to bring efficiency and effectiveness, Mr. Speaker. But instead, it's being abused, Mr. Speaker. At times, even this parliament cannot access its money. This parliament, Mr. Speaker, it allocates money. It is a budget-making house. But the Treasury will not even give you whatever you've allocated. This is something that has to be harmonized, Mr. Speaker. There must be customization to the two levels of government and also customization to the three arms of government. Mr. Speaker, last time the NYS scandal, it was to do with IFMIS. We've also had, Mr. Speaker, before, the misallocation. The questions we're asking, Mr. Speaker, who accesses this IFMIS? Is there a way that there are other people who are unauthorized, Mr. Speaker, that they access IFMIS? Those are the questions we're asking. Who are these people that are abusing? Mr. Speaker, these are the questions Kenyans are asking, and it's the highest time the Committee of ICT, the Ministry of the Treasury and all that, Mr. Speaker, we need to be moved with speed so that the issues of integrity, stability, effectiveness, and efficiency can be assured as far as this system is concerned. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Kainan, you want to weigh in on this?
Not really, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to comment on the issue that you just raised. We still have the COVID crisis. I just want to plead with the members because I've seen a trend last week and this week where members just come with their mask and when they are speaking, they remove it. I think let's not endanger our health. This is something really, and I want to plead with the members. And Mr. Speaker and the other speakers, panelists, let's stick to the rules because this is very important actually for this institution.
Very well done, the Honorable Kainan. That cannot be said enough times. Honorable members, we are not out of the woods. The Honorable Leader of Minority, you have an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Kainan has spoken for me. Actually, Honorable Chris was seriously endangering my life behind me.
The Honorable Majority Whip. You are saying the Honorable Leader of Minority is out of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's our duty, the way Honorable Kainan said, to take care of ourselves. And when you are on the chair and giving direction, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Masara is seated comfortably without a mask, I feel it's not in order, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Masara, some of these things we might take them as jokes, but they can be very expensive jokes. And this thing that we are doing here, these masks, these protocols that we are following, it is not for fun. It is for the good of yourself and for others. Protect at least yourself. And even if you want to be reckless with your life, don't be reckless with the lives of other members. So that is why we insist that you must have a mask when you're in this house. And if you feel that the mask is not good enough for you while you're in the house, please, just keep away. You have that choice. The Honorable Leader of Minority, please proceed.
For some of them are behaving like Trump. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to weigh in on the issue of IFMIS. And I want to say the following. Number one, this issue of IFMIS is not new. It has been with us for some time. I remember in the Public Accounts Committee, we had a lot of discussion with the Treasury on the efficiency and effectiveness of this system. But more so, if you look at the records from the Treasury, almost every year there is upgrade of the system, and it costs a lot of money, upwards of billions of shillings. So, Mr. Speaker, one would wonder why we still have a lot of challenges with the system. So those challenges need to be looked into, and I think it is timely that the matter is raised for the committee to consider. But however, I tend to disagree, Mr. Speaker, with some of the comments coming from some of my colleagues, especially Honorable Chris Wamano. You see, a system, a financial system, can never leave people happy. In fact, if you have a financial system that makes people angry, that's a perfect financial system. That is the main reason why we implement financial systems to make sure that there is efficiency and that money is not wasted. If a system is easily accessible and that you can transact so easily and at will without putting everything in order, then that is not a good system, a good financial system. What I would urge is for us to check if this system is serving the purpose, not serving the interests of individuals who want to access money easily. Because for people to access money, for any officer, public officer to access money, documentation must be put in order, and there must be money. You know, sometimes we think there is a pool of money in the treasury. The treasury is collecting money continuously, and at the times they don't have money. You don't expect the CS for treasury, in charge of treasury, to announce to Kenyans that the country is broke, that we don't have money. What they do is to close the system. When they close the system, they regulate the use of the money. So, Mr. Speaker, sometimes we may be too harsh to the treasury for nothing, yet they're just there. Because really, Mr. Speaker, some of us who have interacted with our state coffers, we are struggling as a country. That is a fact. I can speak about it because I'm a politician. That is a fact. We don't have enough money in this country to meet all our expenses. So when you see the IFMIS being closed, the message they are sending to you is, Parliament, wait, we don't have money to give you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, we shall have comments from the Honorable Raso Ali, member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thank Honorable Sosi for bringing up the issue of IFMIS. But I tend to disagree with experts like Honorable Mbadi. If really IFMIS was a good thing, then today the financial management in this country would be one of the best. What we hear from the Auditor General, some of the pilferage, corruption, and theft in this country actually is taking place through IFMIS. For that reason, I think the Honorable Chair of ICT should dig deeper into, do actually Kenya need IFMIS, or we have IFMIS and strengthen it with other systems? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ole Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I want to congratulate Honorable Osonsi for bringing such a very important issue to the floor of this House. Honorable Speaker, we should be aware that when Jubilee was elected, it was elected on the platform that it will be a digital government. And this is one of the digitalization that the country is trying to do, Honorable Speaker. And you are aware that in any program, there must be some little teething problem, Honorable Speaker, but it is up to now this House to make sure that all those teething problems are solved, and that is why Honorable Onsosi came up with this issue, so that we can solve this. And as Honorable Mbadi have said, that any financial management system should be with a lot of strictness and should not be something that anybody can access at will, Honorable Speaker. We are struggling post-COVID-19, although we are still within COVID-19, Honorable Speaker, so the country may not be having enough money at the moment, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, let the chair of ICT make sure that the expert in this House give their input so that we can better this particular management system, financial management system. But we cannot in totality oppose digitalization of our systems, including finance management system like IFMIS. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Mboko, member from Emuhaya, and the one who was ranked #1 in the whole nation, and who is my brother and my neighbor. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you and to tell the House that this man is a performer. He is my neighbor, he is my brother. I'm proud of you. The Honorable Mboko, proceed.
I'm humbled, Honorable Speaker. Last week I was also, was it this week? I was also roasted here, but it's okay, thank you. The integrated financial management information system, I think, is a good system, and I think it moved us to some next level. and we appreciate. But the statement by Honorable Sotsi is timely and must be appreciated because it's based on a report that was actually given by the Auditor General. And one time I interacted with that report closely because there was delays in payment of workers' salaries, Honorable Speaker. And that's why I got concerned. And the issues he raised are issues that actually need to be attended to. Some of them that were in the report, Honorable Speaker, include, among other things, the fact that unidentified users were able to use the system. And that's one thing that I think the report should be looked at to fix it. He also raised the issue of multiple identity. I followed it very keenly during that particular time, that there are people who have multi-identity within the system. They can come as Omboko and also come as Kimunya and also come, yes, it was in the report. So I think these are issues that need to, then there was the issue of deleting, that you could actually use it to pay, then you delete. Honorable Sotsi, I hope you interacted with that, so that then it's not known that you did do the payment, among many others. And I think the case study that he has raised, the one of the county government business being seen in the national government business, should have come out very strongly, and indeed he pronounced himself on it. So for me, I think this is a very nice statement, and let the committee take it. I wish it was even just a question, because you would have had a one-on-one interaction with the minister so that you question him several times. But I know the chair of the committee is able, and she will actually take up the matter so that we are able to interrogate this system with the main aim of improving it and safeguarding it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The member for Game, the Honorable Odhiambo Ochieng.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to weigh on Honorable Sotsi's statement. And as I mentioned at the beginning, he stated that the Auditor General's office, in their report, indicated that there's been issues with IFMI's system. The original creation of IFMIS was supposed to give this country value for money. And more importantly, it was supposed to align resources to priorities and policies so as to eliminate inefficiencies that exist in the system. But having said that, I think as a country, our eyes is on the Treasury. The very people that are supposed to ensure that that system is effective and that it meets what it was procured to perform. What comes to my mind, like all systems that exist in the world, that all systems need to be audited, that the profiles that are provided in any system must be categorized such that each and every individual who is a user has a specific profile level so that they don't duplicate roles. But from what I've read in a number of newspapers and a number of reports, there are those in the Treasury that are gifted ICT gurus who are able to delete a payment and able to do a payment times 3. So it's important what Ososi is saying. If as a country we want to help Kenya to preserve and protect our resources that are earned well, we must audit that system. We must ensure that we have a robust system that can protect the money that is collected and ensure that the thieves that exist in Treasury are eliminated by a proper audit system. I know that the system is used under the auspices of, under the platform of Oracle, which is a very good software. But I think the ICT chair, your work is well clear. You say you have 9 experts. The baby is at your door, so that the country can protect our resources. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, thank you for talking about COVID. But yesterday I noticed in the newspaper, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya was with this Tanga team, walking with a wheelbarrow, without mask. Surely, is this Kenya? or that is somewhere else? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, sir.
The honorable member for Game, this speaker can only speak for what is in this house. What is out there, I've advised even the honorable Masawa that if one chooses to be reckless with their lives, at least protect the one that is next to you. That is God's duty, obligation to you, to your neighbor, to take care of your neighbor, even if you don't want to take care of yourself. And that is why all of us should wear these masks, really. Honorable members, we have run down the 30 minutes that the standing orders allow us to ventilate on this. I see a lot of interest in it, but the standing order number 44, requires us only to ventilate for about 30 minutes, and we have run it. I'll only allow one more member, who was really the first member on the list since morning, the Honorable Yusuf Haji, member for Mandera West. Then we shall close that particular ventilation. The Honorable Haji, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also stand to add my voice to the IFMIS system, and I think this statement was very timely. It was brought on the right time. All systems, any system that is put in place is for the sake of improving, improving efficiency, for the sake of improving transparency, and for betterment of the users of that system. But IFMIS, since it came on board, I think the system is good, but the users of IFMIS, some of them manipulate it, some of them use it for other purposes. It has become an animal that most of the people who wait for monies through that system fear, because all of a sudden, maybe like contractors, they do work for the government, they finish their work, they are given a certificate of completions, they wait for their payments, and all of a sudden they are told IFMIS is closed. And maybe what the leader of my minority said is right. Maybe that particular time there may be no money, but the best way is not to close and just keep quiet. The best way is maybe to inform those who are expecting to get money through that system that it will be done either tomorrow or the day or so, but just not, the only reason not being IFMIS is now closed, and therefore you have no way to move either forward or backward. You have just to wait, stick there, and wait for IFMIS to open. And IFMIS, I think, was put there in order to improve efficiency, in order to safeguard money. But when we hear that billions of shillings have been stolen through IFMIS, when we hear that IFMIS have been operated by somebody who is not known, somebody with an identity that is not clear, then it gives us a lot of doubt that the purpose of forming or putting this system and what is happening actually is quite different. And therefore, I will also urge, like my friends, that the ball is now in the court of the committee of ITC, and let us hear improvement. Let us hear friendly IFMIS. Let us hear that IFMIS is there for us and for the Kenyans all over. And whenever we hear IFMIS, let's hear something positive. Let's stop hearing negativity. All the time, IFMIS, negativity. IFMIS, no money, IFMIS. Everything is being blamed on IFMIS. This animal called IFMIS, I think we need to identify it, brand it, and put it for the use of the betterment of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the next response to statement will be from the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security, who will issue a statement on request by the Honorable Maoka Maore, MP, regarding the disappearance of David Taitumu in Mombasa County. Chair, Administration and National Security.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Member of Parliament for Igembe North constituency, Honorable Maoka Maore, has requested for a statement regarding the disappearance of Mr. David Taitumu Ntontene in Mombasa County. The honorable member particularly sought to be informed on 1, the status of investigation into the disappearance of Mr. David Taitumu Ntontene in Mombasa County, and secondly, Honorable Speaker, the measures being undertaken by the relevant ministry and other agencies to locate and bring back Mr. David Taitumu Ntontene to his family, who have been living in distress and anguish as they look for their loved one. Honorable Speaker, I wish to state as follows. On 15th August 2020, a report of a missing person was filed at Central Police Station, Mombasa, via OB number 13/15/8/2020 at around 1600 hours by one Keremi Phineas of mobile number 0726 802 173, a resident of Lesha area, that his brother David Taitumu Ntontene went missing on 14th August at 1600 hours. The description, Honorable Speaker, of the missing person was given as indicated below. Name, David Taitumu Ntontene, age 47 years, skin, dark, height, tall, residence, Bamburi, Mtamboni area, occupation, shopkeeper at Express area. On 15th August 2020, his motor vehicle registration number KBE 958Y, Toyota Premio, silver in color, was recovered by a Central Police Station duty officer and his anti-crime standby personnel after it was found abandoned at Kizingo area near Coast Academy Primary School. The car driver's window was shattered. Honorable Speaker, the DCI officer was immediately informed and he visited the scene accompanied by crime scene support services personnel, and after processing the scene, the car was towed to the police station for safe custody and further investigations. Honorable Speaker, investigation into the incidents has commenced by police inquiry file number 3/2020, and statements including those of family and the members of the public were recorded. Investigations are still ongoing, and once finalized, the file will be forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecution for perusal and further action. This statement was signed by the Minister concerned on 29 September 2020. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Maure.
Mr. Speaker, the answer given does not actually point a finger the way we were looking for, because we expected the ministry to come out and state on the status of investigation. But from what the chair has read, he just talked about a file and not the input of what is there in that file. The reason being, when the vehicle was found, if the dusting was done, that should have given a clue of those who might have been involved. And then a very strange incident, of which I had mentioned even in my statement, when I was seeking the statement, is the story of the phone location. When the report was done, the phone was on. Even on the 19th, 4 days later, it was still able to send or receive messages. Now, if the police were investigating and they were looking for wherever he was, they would have known. That is why the family has been very concerned that this may not be an ordinary abduction or a kidnapping, but would have involved some security forces. And it is only security forces who are able to cover up for themselves, so that in the dusting, they prevent anything coming out. In the location and the whereabouts, they would also do it. And given what has been happening around the coast, about people being picked up by these, specifically the anti-terrorism unit. People are picked and they just disappear. And is in most cases where they disappear is they are not able to coin any crime, and then they are worried about the lawsuits. So that's why, Mr. Speaker, we would like a more clarification on what is in that file of inquiry or investigation.
Very well. Honorable members, I direct that we move to the next business.
Order number 8, Committee of the Whole House.
Order. Honourable members, now we are in the Committee of the Whole House to consider the Public Service Values Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019. Of course, it's really a very short, a fairly short bill. So we can start.
Clause 2.
I propose a question, which is that clause 2 be part of the bill. Our members, we have a proposed amendment to clause 2 by the Honorable the sponsor, Mwandime. Please, can you move your proposed amendment?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg you to move the bill be amended by deleting clause 2 and substitute as proposed below. Madam Speaker, justification is, corruption, mostly we focus on finances and procurement, but actually massive corruption takes place in human resource here in the country. Find that somebody is the CEO of a parastatal or any state arm, and he ends up employing all his clansmen and his ethnicity, leaving behind the other 44 tribes in the country. Madam Speaker, thank you. I beg to.
So in a nutshell, Honorable, your input to the amendment, hoping that the members have already understood the input. Members, I move to propose a question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Mwandime. I welcome some comments from, let me have the Honorable Manzo Kitonga, member for Makueni.
Yes, Madam Speaker, Chair, I want to support this particular amendment because this has been the trend in the country, so we need to have a stop. So that whenever somebody becomes a CEO of a parastatal or government entity, in a way, unless you make them account during their time, how people have been hired, they are likely to collude in one way or another. And therefore, this amendment is important so that it can be seen the trend of employment, and we make sure that there is equity in the country, because corruption is also by way of human resource. Thank you.
Very well. The member for Igembe South. It seems to be already consulting. Let me have the member, Honorable Sako, member for Sako, Honorable Rasso, Ali.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to support that very important amendment by Honorable Mwandime. This country, we have 42 different tribes, speaking almost different dialect. But we are a nation of different people, but unity of purpose is we are one country. And all of us believe that whatever is there at the center, whatever Public Service Commission is doing, even we, the members of Parliament, we are blind to it. We believe that they do what is right, what is fair, and what will bring this country together to show the faces of Kenya. So for that reason, I think the clarity of what he has spelled out in terms of what is the composition of workforce in every department, in every ministry, in every institution, I think in the long run is what will free this country. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Very well. Let me have the member for Kitui Central, the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I also want to support this amendment to this law and say it's very important, Honorable Chair, because, Honorable Chair, when you look at the statistics which were released the other day by the CS Public Service, you could say that proportionately some areas are not being represented in the civil service. So to me, I think this will ensure that every part of this country get their right share as we recruit. Although, given a chance, I would have said, Honorable Speaker, the issue of ethnicity, you know, when you put it in law, I don't know whether that's the direction we want to go as a country where we want to really pronounce ethnicity, but I support. Thank you.
With that, I know even the chair is listening. Let me have the Honorable Ole Sankok David, 001.
Thank you very much, Chair. And Chair, I do support this particular amendment, Chair. Although recently I've been discharged from the duties of being a member of the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, Honorable Chair, but this amendment will bring equal opportunities not only to regions, but to the 42 tribes that we have in this country, and more specifically to the 43rd tribe of persons with disability in this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we cannot have a cohesive country if some feel that are not represented in most of these parastatal and government jobs, Honorable Speaker. The moment we bring all of us on board, Honorable Speaker, all the 42 tribes, Honorable Speaker, then the country start healing and being cohesive, Honorable Speaker. So cohesion can only be achieved if we as a House support this particular amendment so that we have the whole country represented in our government. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Very well. Yes, I'm just looking at the interests of course, with Honorable Makali having supported the proposed amendment, but with an interest on the issue of the ethnicity. Honorable Makali, if I want to refer you to your Constitution, 232, which is talking of affording adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training, and advancement at all levels of the public service of men and women, the members of all ethnic groups. Then, and now the third one, persons with disabilities. I think that's where the import. Very well. Honorable Makali.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Well guided.
Very well, very well. Thank you, thank you. It's good to always do with the concerns of the members. So, honourable members, with that debate having arose, I move to put the question, which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Honourable Mwandime. Will as many as of these opinions say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinions say nay? Members, the ayes have it. Members, on the same clause, we have a proposed amendment by the Honourable, the Chair, Honourable Koinange. But now that the proposed amendment by the Honorable, because the amendment is the same, and having the amendment by Honorable Mandime being carried, then as a matter of procedure, it follows that the proposed amendment by the Honorable Koinange falls. Next. The Honorable Koinange, you want to say something?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The clause 2 of the bill, or to beg to move the clause 2
Honorable
of the,
Koinange, I had just given a direction, a communication. As a matter of procedure, your proposed amendment to the same clause is similar to the amendment that has been moved by Honorable, who is the sponsor, Andrew Madime. And because the one for Andrew Madime has already been carried, it just follows that your proposed amendment falls.
Okay.
Yes, because they are the same. Then now I put the question, which is that clause 2, as amended, becomes part of the bill. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next clause.
Title?
I propose a question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. Members, I see no proposed amendment to the title, and I therefore move to put the question, which is that the title be the title to the bill. As many as are of the opinion say aye, aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay. Members, the ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose a question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. No proposed amendment to clause 1, and I move to put the question, which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Members, will as many as of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Members, we are through with the proposed amendment of the bill, and I therefore call upon the mover. I call upon the mover to move the reporting. Honorable Madime.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well, members, I therefore put the question for reporting, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Bill number 17 of 2019, and its approval thereof with amendment. Members, as many as of the opinion say aye, aye. And as many as of contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it.
Order. The mover. Chairperson.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019, and approved the same with amendments.
The mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the late report. I also request Honorable Jeremiah to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
I second Honorable Speaker.
Honorable I then propose the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Public Service Value and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 17 of 2019, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Jeremiah to second.
I second, Honorable Speaker.
I propose the question that the Public Service Values and Principles and Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019, be now read a third time. Is it the mood that we put the question, honorable members? I therefore put the question, which is that the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Service Values and Principles Act and to provide for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, second reading.
Honorable members, yes, this is a resumption of debate, and the mover had started, the Honorable Benjamin Mwangi. It started moving, and he had a balance of 3 minutes, according to the records that I hold here. The Honorable Mwangi, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to continue moving the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 27 of 2019. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to remind the honorable members the objectives of the bill. One is compulsory retirement age at the age of 60 in the public service. B is penal provision provision in the case of appointing authority not confirming acting appointment or otherwise acting in appointment beyond prescribed 6-month period. And the final one is removing exemptions for further engagement of officers upon attaining the mandatory retirement on the basis of their skills, knowledge, and competence. Justification of this, Mr. Speaker, behind this bill is to spur economic growth and development through job creation and releasing retired officers to enjoy their sunset years while engaging new skills, either through promotion or direct employment in the public service supported by institutional succession planning. The bill recognizes the need for structured succession planning in government institutions. Appointing authority through prudent human resource management strategies will provide for pathway in management of human capital and reduce the recycling of officers upon the retirement age. Mr. Speaker, Public Service Commission Amendment Bill 2019 build on a case reference from the High Court, where the court suspended the circular on removal of the age limit of head of parastatus. The head of public service through circular titled Term of Service for State Corporation Chief Executive Officers instructed boards of management and parastatal on the decision to remove the term limit of parastatal heads or chiefs. With this circular in mind, corporation head can be reappointed as many times as the appointing authority deems it fit, and possibility of working beyond the mandatory age limit. The mandatory retirement age of 60 is eminent, noting that such positions attract relatively old officers by virtue of qualification and experience required in the appointment. While suspending the circular from the head of public service on term limit for parastatal heads, Justice Onesimus Mutua of Employment and Labor Relation Court cited the provision of Section 80, subsection 2 of the Public Service Commission Act 2019 and the State Cooperation Management and Governance of advised in the Mwongozo Code of Governance. It is therefore imperative to set the law as the law prescription that would streamline appointment of public service to ensure sustainability and competence in growth. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General, through the draft report of Human Resource Management and Planning of the Judicial Service, there is evidence in an officer acting in appointment for more than 7 years, drawing acting allowance for approximately 74 months. The auditor notes that a huge component of the budget on the acting allowance, which ordinarily
Yes, the Honorable Mwangi, this is a good thing, but you have been caught up with time, but I'll allow you an extra 2 minutes so that you can complete your moving. Then we move on.
Thank you, Mr.
Proceed.
Speaker. The auditor notes that the huge component of the budget of acting allowance, which ordinarily could be the case in the law, was firmed up to reduce such operational bottlenecks in the service. Mr. Speaker, the public service enlisted in the Constitution, the fulcrum for service delivery in the two-tier government, therefore, a critical descent of registration governing the service is important, considering dynamics in technology and innovation and skills and competence required to deliver the service. Mr. Speaker, Section 34 of Public Service Commission Act 2017 provides for acting appointment, where acting appointment shall be made by lawful authority and subject to the prescribed regulation and procedure which apply to appointment. Hence, there is need to regularize the period for appointment on acting capacity and provide for the penal punishment for non-adherence to such provision. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore against this backdrop that the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill 2019 is before the Honorable House for consideration and adoption of the report on Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Mr. Speaker, sir, therefore, in the light of foregoing the bill serves to achieve as follows: provide compulsory retirement at the age of 60 in the Act. Number 2, to provide for the penal provision in case a public organization allow a person or an officer to act for a period exceeding 6 months. To provide for compulsory retirement upon attainment of mandatory retirement age at 60 without exemption, as provided in Section 80, subsection 2 of the Public Service Commission Act 2017. With this in mind, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request Honorable Charles Jagua Kanyi, Member of Parliament, Starehe constituency, to second. I thank you.
The Honorable Charles Kanyi, popularly known as Jagua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking my colleague, Honorable Major Dong, for bringing this bill to this House. Mr. Speaker, what Major Dong, my good friend...
The Honorable Kanyi, there is no name like that on the record of members in this House.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
His name is the Honorable Mwangi.
Commonly known as Major Dong.
The Honorable Kanyi, you have flouted a very critical protocol.
I withdraw, Mr. Speaker.
No, not that. You had rather just put on your mask, please. Put on your mask. Yes, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, what my colleague Benjamin Kathiru Bill is advocating, Mr. Speaker, is the amendment of the Public Service Commission Act number 10 of 2017. And Mr. Speaker, sometimes back, I brought a motion in this House that the bill, Mr. Speaker, I brought a bill in this House sometimes back. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm one of the beneficiaries of the youth vote that brought me to this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And we have been getting a lot of opposition and criticism for not fighting for the youth of this country, Mr. Speaker. And unemployment in this country, Mr. Speaker, is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, Mr. Speaker. And today, Mr. Speaker, I must say that I'm elated to stand here in this House, in the floor of this House, to fight for the rights of the youth of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I brought the 50-year motion in this House, Mr. Speaker, it was because of the cry of the youth of this country, Mr. Speaker. Unemployment have hit, emerging that we can't, that Mr. Speaker, if something is not done, this country is heading in the, if something is not done, Mr. Speaker, this country is heading in the wrong direction, Mr. Speaker. Two reasons why I'm supporting and two reasons why I'm seconding and supporting Honorable Benjamin Gathiru's bill is one, we have a country where, Mr. Speaker, people get appointed and people get appointed to positions when they are over 8 years, Mr. Speaker. People who have been working for more than 74 years in the public service, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, also, we have organizations in this country whereby you find someone working at an acting capacity for more than 7 years, Mr. Speaker. A good example is last year, NSSF, Mr. Speaker. The whole top management of that organization, Mr. Speaker, were on acting capacity. That means that those youths who have graduated and have been tamarking every day looking for jobs, Mr. Speaker, can get employment, considering that one is acting in an acting position and still holding a position in that organization, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I know many youths are looking upon us and want to see what the policies and laws that we are putting in place to make sure that they get employment, Mr. Speaker. And I know, since the bill that I brought, the motion I brought in this House, Mr. Speaker, brought a lot of controversy, and there was objection by many members and experts saying that it will bring pension issues, Mr. Speaker. I know Major Donk's, Benjamin Gathiru's bill will pass with no objection, because I believe many members of Parliament, all members of Parliament, believe that there is a problem of unemployment, Mr. Speaker. Before I finish, Mr. Speaker, I want to give a very good example, Mr. Speaker. We have a honorable member of Parliament here who stayed in the university for more than 10 years, Mr. Speaker, because he knew if he comes out of that university, he will not get employment, Mr. Speaker. So this is a big problem. And I can even mention the name because members know him, Honorable Babu Owino, Mr. Speaker. He stayed in the university for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, knowing very well if he comes out of that university, he won't get employment, Mr. Speaker. And I want to loud and thank the people of Embakasi East for voting for him, because even now he would be still in the university, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, this issue of unemployment is a serious problem in this country.
The Honorable Kanye.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I am aware that the Honorable Ongili Babu has been at the university for a fairly long period, but it is not because of he had any fear for anything. If there's one member that I know who does not fear anything, it is the Honorable Babu. And
Mr.
I'm
Speaker,
sure this unemployment could not have been a monster that would have scared the Honorable Babu.
Mr. Speaker,
the Honorable Babu, from what I know, is that he was studying for many degrees. He has studied for, he is a master of quite a number of the disciplines at the university. And I believe he's still there. I think he's still studying for his PhD, I think. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Babu is a good friend of mine. And I can say without fear or any contradiction that
I'll allow you 2 minutes because I took your time, the Honorable Kanye.
Mr. Speaker, I can say without fear or contradiction that Babu Owino is a good friend of mine, and he confided to me the reason why he stayed in the university for more than 10 years, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, the Honorable Kanyi. The Honorable Wangwe, what is out of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In as much as Honorable Kanyi is my good friend, we've had a good travel together, but this House has some rules, Honorable Speaker. Is the member in order to open a discussion against a colleague without a substantive motion on the floor, Honorable Speaker?
The Honorable Wangwe, I'm sure the Honorable Kanyi was doing it on a very light note. But the rules require that if you are going to mention another member, in whatever, if you are going to cast any aspersions on any member, then you need to bring a substantive motion so that it can be canvassed.
Thank you.
But I took that you are doing it on a very light note. Proceed and finish your
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I finish, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge members of parliament in this house to support this bill and make sure that we work on other bills that will create employment to the youth of this country, Mr. Speaker. If you look at the number of youth, Kenyans who enter the job market, Mr. Speaker, those with degrees, those with diplomas, Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked, because I believe that if something is not done, and I repeat again, if something is not done, this country is not heading in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Very well.
I beg to second, Mr. Speaker.
Well done, the Honorable Kanyi. Honorable members, allow me to propose the question then, that the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2019, be read a second time. Honorable members, I will give the first go to this to the chair of the the chair National Security. Yeah, the Honorable Koinange, first go.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the principal objects of the bill is to amend the Public Service Commission Act of 2017 to prescribe the mandatory retirement age of 60 years in the Act. The Public Service Commission Act 2017 provides that the mandatory age is to be prescribed in the regulations. Honorable Speaker, the bill further provides for the penal provisions in the event that an appointing authority allows a person to act for a period of more than 6 months. Lastly, the Act provides for mandatory retirement at the age of 60 without any exceptions. Honorable Speaker, the import of the amendments is to address the issue of succession planning by the Public Service Commission and the other service commissions, and ensure that service commissions take the necessary steps to ensure that they train other persons in the organization to take up the positions. Honorable Speaker, the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill 2019 was read for the first time on Thursday, 2nd May 2019, and subsequently committed to the committee pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 127 in bracket 1 and report to the House. Honorable Speaker, the committee noted the following. In relation to clause 2, which provides that 3 in bracket A, upon the expiry of 6 months, an officer appointed under subsection 3 shall not be entitled to any acting allowance. 2, the committee observed the following. The proposed clause is punitive in nature because it punishes an officer who has been appointed under subsection 3. The proposal does not take into account officers acting in a temporary capacity, such as study leave, secondment, leave of absence, or such other leave as the Commission may approve. And secondly, the clause does not state whether the officer ceases to act, and if that is the case, what happens to the acting position. And thirdly, the proposed clause does not substantively address the issue of one in an acting capacity as a temporary measure for an appointing authority to recruit and substantively fill the position. The clause should be amended to buttress subsection 3 as it addresses or provides that an officer may be appointed in an acting capacity for a period of not at least 30 days, but not exceeding a period of 6 months. Therefore, the committee recommended for a new subsection 3A that will mandate an appointing authority to fill a vacant position within 6 months. Honorable Speaker, in relation to clause 3, which seeks to amend section 80 of the Public Service Commission in order to provide for the age of retirement in statute, the committee observed the following. 1, the proposed amendment is timely as it will increase job vacancies available to the youth. This will also task the Public Service Commission and other appointing authorities to come up with succession plans for jobs that require rare technical skills. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the executive has a tendency of extending the tenure of persons account of possession of rare knowledge of skills. And thirdly, with regard to constitutional commissions, many retirees who are over 70 years are recycled into the said commissions. Members felt that such positions can be filled by the able persons who are less than 60 years who have the requisite knowledge. And fourthly, Honorable Speaker, the provision proposed will unclog the heavyweight bill the country is currently facing. And Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, in relation to clause 4 of the bill, which provides for a saving and transition provision, the committee observed that the transition provision is to cater for persons who are over 60 years and are currently serving in the service or any other public authority. Honorable Speaker, in view of the same, the committee has proposed amendments to bill to take into consideration the observation. You do that at the time of the Committee of the Whole House, and I therefore request all the honorable members to read the report of the committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well done, the Honorable Koinange, and that is the way it should be. The chairs of committees, when there is a debate such as this, it is good for them to come with a committee position so that they can inform the House, and then the rest of the House can debate from an informed position. Good job. Well done, the Honorable Koinange. We shall have the first contribution from the Honorable Moi, member for Kathiani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this bill is fairly timely, and I think when you look at it, on the face value, it seems not to do much, but when you read in between the lines, there's quite a lot, and especially what has been highlighted here by the chair of the committee. Mr. Speaker, retirement basically is meant to leave space for other people. When people retire, there's an expectation that other people will be recruited. And a lot of times, even youthful members believe that the opportunities created will be for other youthful people. Unfortunately, it's not always the case, because many times people will retire from office, and the people that replace them are also just a few years younger. So it doesn't necessarily follow that when one retires, the work goes to the youth. Because I can see the intention here is to try and create opportunities for youth. Mr. Speaker, the youths have been told from time immemorial that they are the leaders of tomorrow. But strangely, tomorrow never seems to come for them. And that's why they are normally taken advantage of by politicians. Either they're given handouts. You know, recently I've been seeing them being pushed around in wheelbarrows, being given shovels, and they're told that that is how they're being empowered. Yet those that are doing that probably were empowered by being taught, trained, enlightened, and maybe even given things of substantial value that could actually be able to push their lives forward. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important that we try and support our youth and find ways by which we can do it. Now, Mr. Speaker, the retirement age, they are proposing that the retirement age of 60 years should be made compulsory, and any extension of time basically almost punishable. And I think I would like to say that and agree with the chair that sometimes you cannot put all cadre of employment together. There could be situations or reasons why circumstances that could actually lead to some extension. So it's important that that be addressed. Now, I also want to support the proposal to encourage succession planning that has been, I can see in that proposed bill. Because many times it looks like when officers leave office, it's like we are disorganized. We don't know who's going to take over and how soon. And that is why you find people operating in an acting capacity for so long. Our own CEO for NGCDF was acted in an acting capacity for years. I mean, and yet he has all the qualities that are required to have taken up that office almost immediately. So I think it's important that we encourage that, within the 6 months, people are confirmed to office, and therefore they don't get paid the acting allowances, which the proposal is to stop. I support the committee that says the government should just be pushed, the executive should be pushed to be able to stop, or rather to recruit and confirm these people within that period, because it is possible. So I want to encourage the succession planning, and I think that's a very good step, because the longer one stays in an acting capacity, then obviously that shows that the organization is a little disorganized. Otherwise, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a step in the right direction, and because I think, as the chair said, there will be opportunity to discuss this later in the third reading. We can all propose amendments to make it better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Masara, member for Suna West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the amendment of this bill was very timely, because this is the time when youths of this country are really crying to be absorbed in the government, Mr. Speaker. But you realize that in most cases, the offices are filled with people who are beyond 60 years. And apart from that, so many of people are still being appointed by the executive, but the youths are left out when it comes to the issue of job creation. Mr. Speaker, I sit in the Committee of National Administration and Internal Security, and I want to say that a lot of work was done. That's why the chairman came up with the recommendation and the statement. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say something here. The succession plan, which has been introduced in this bill, will really assist this country. Remember, sometimes back here, the country was at a crossroad. When the Auditor General retires, and it took almost a year or so without a substantive Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, and in so many cases, some people are doing such a thing deliberately to create room for their own relatives and friends so that they can continue earning in the government after attaining the age of 60 years. Mr. Speaker, having said that, the amendment also will now ensure that once somebody retires, within 6 months, that particular person must be replaced. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice that Mr. Mwangi brought a good amendment, and it needs to be supported. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Lesanko.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this bill, and I want to congratulate my friend, Honorable Speaker, because this bill is quite timely. Honorable Speaker, our youth are out there, totally unemployed. The effect of COVID-19, 1.7 million jobs lost, is just an addition to the millions of unemployed youth that are out there, Honorable Speaker, as a time bomb, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, if our youth in their millions, with the amount of energy, physical or otherwise, that they have, are idle, Honorable Speaker, it because we know that an idle mind is a devil workshop. Honorable Speaker. And that is why, over the years, youth have been seen to be used to uproot railways and other things, Honorable Speaker, demonstration for the sake of some politicians who will never accept any results outcome, Honorable Speaker, for their benefit to have handshakes and whatever it you call and backdoor entry into government. Honorable Speaker, we need to create opportunities for this youth. We can only create opportunities for this youth, Honorable Speaker, if we accept that when the retirement age comes, you will have to go home, and we create that particular opportunity. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mbuyu say that sometimes we create an opportunity from somebody who is 60 years only to give somebody who is 55. But remember, he had also created an opportunity down there which will trickle down to those who are 25 or 24 years, Honorable Speaker. So this bill is a very timely bill, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, during the third reading and the committee of the whole House, Honorable Speaker, I think we'll bring more input to enrich this bill. Honorable Speaker, because we cannot be saying that our teachers, our clerks, our accountants should retire at the age of 60 because probably they are tired in terms of productivity, in terms of mental productivity and physical productivity, Honorable Speaker. But at the same time, we are recycling politicians, we are recycling chief executive officers of parastatals and board directors of parastatal, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think we can bring, we can enrich by saying that we tie up the retirement age of all civil servants with the age limit of every politician or anybody that is appointed to any appointive positions, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we need to empower our youth. And yes, Honorable Mbuyu said that wheelbarrows may not be able and mkokotenis to empower the youth. Honorable Speaker, and I know where he come from because if you come from a rich family, you don't really know the value of a wheelbarrow, Honorable Speaker, and the value of a mkokoteni, Honorable Speaker. I started my business by sharpening knives. The equipment or the machine that I was using to sharpen knives costed 1,500. Honorable Speaker, a wheelbarrow is even more expensive and a mkokoteni is more expensive. But for a progressive mind, a boda is a tool that will start you to start business and become a future millionaire and an employer of our youth and probably add into our nation building in terms of economy. Honorable Speaker, we really need to create position. And that is why I urge this House, let us all support this particular amendment from my good friend, Honorable Speaker, so that if you had an opportunity, please use that opportunity before 60 years, invest well, become an employer, assist the government in employing youth by creating a position, by retiring into your business so that we can create more position and more opportunities for the youth who will also exit in the same way of becoming investors and creating position. You cannot do anything more, even if we add you an extra 5 years, if you did not invest in the last 20 years you have been working. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I do support.
Well spoken, the Honorable Sankok. But honorable members, probably we need to have a paradigm shift in the way we look at employment in this country. Because we have a huge population of youth who have now gotten very good training by courtesy of the efforts that have been made by parliaments that have come before this one and ourselves in expanding the education space. But we still have the mindset that this youth must be absorbed by the civil service, which is not possible. So we need to expand our heads, our thinking in terms of how we are going to find useful ways of occupying our youth in this country. The Honorable Maanzo Kitonga, member for Makueni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. And I want to agree with you. We must go beyond the civil service, which is what this bill is concentrating on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 27(4) of the Constitution, where we should not discriminate particularly on age. There are many other parameters, and we are discussing it with the Honorable Wangwe, the whip, that whatever law we make must be within the Constitution. And again, you see, for every law we have, including the Constitution, there is, in one way or another, an exception to that law. So while we make this particular law to improve from dealing with the regulations, and I'm very familiar with the regulations which deal with this aspect of the service, now it's be brought on board to the main act. And then I'm sure still there will be regulations dealing with these particular amendments we are making, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, at times, as the chair of security has said, Honorable Koinange, there are reasons at times advanced as to why one acts and stays in that acting capacity. Probably the recruitment was not successful. And again, sometimes some of these people are serving on contract, although they are beyond 60. And this happens in very specified places, such as Treasury and also the Office of the President. For example, currently the head of civil service. So when it is an appointment of the President to serve at his office on a specific contract or for a specific task, Mr. Speaker, then again, how does this act come in play, and how does it safeguard this? But that notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, you realize that even people after people's retirement, a lot of them go to set up businesses and hire a lot of youth. When you are talking of work, if you see the two presidential candidates in America, Mr. Speaker, they are headed to 80. And we have only two at that level. We don't have a youth really running for president in the United States of America, although a lot of youths in America have the capacity to do so, have the money, especially the ones who have invested in IT. But they rather leave that to other experts, Mr. Speaker. So when we look at this law, Mr. Speaker, I would like us to look at it in totality. Definitely there is some work to do at the third reading to purify this particular act so that it totally conforms to the law. And I support the youth in creation of employment. And one of the areas the youth shine is now the ICT, information technology. A lot of youth, Mr. Speaker, now can go online and do a lot of jobs online. In fact, job seeking now, Mr. Speaker, is also done online, and it's not limited to Kenya. A lot of young people are working online, even working for companies outside this country. They're able to deliver, and they're able to be paid online. So really, I also want to urge the youth of this country to get into the internet, just using your phone. Even now, the university, because of the COVID situation, Mr. Speaker, the universities are opening online and the lectures are going on online. So we have to look. I want to take your challenge. We must look at the future and where this world is going. Mr. Speaker, in one of the international conferences I attended dealing with the cooperatives and the circles, it was clear that even at some time, Mr. Speaker, we will have lorries without drivers, where vehicles are able to move even without a driver, because they are able to use technology and people carry goods. The goods can be delivered on a lorry without a driver, Mr. Speaker. So we open our mind, and Mr. Speaker, I do support this as an important amendment, and thank you.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Manzo. Just this morning, I received a message from Kenya Power and Lighting, and they are telling me now they have meters, which will allow the consumers to assess and read their meters by themselves. That means that a lot of those people who read those meters will no longer be employed. So we need to think. It's a paradigm shift that we need to have. The Honorable Chachuganya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for for an opportunity to contribute to this bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill on public service is trying to streamline the law on the appointment of public service in our country. It's trying to amend the Principal Act or to provide in law for the mandatory retirement age of 60 years. As of now, it's in regulations, but they want to anchor it in law, which is a good idea. It's also trying to provide, by doing so, it's trying to provide employment for our youths, which for sure is a serious issue in our country. The bill, the Speaker, is trying to, is done in a way that there will be no exception to retirement age. And when the vacancy arises, it must be filled within 60 days, with no exception. The bill, as it is, it has no regard for special skills, expertise, and very special education. It doesn't also, it also wants any acting capacity that could be, could arise in any public service or any of our state corporations to be filled within 60 days, within 6 months. So, Speaker, sir, while the bill is trying to address a critical problem in our country, which is unemployment, as it is, I have serious issues with this bill. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's even trying to do away with study leave, leave without pay. And there are many Kenyans who actually take study leave to go and get education or experience so that they can advance themselves. There are Kenyans who actually, when they are appointed to go overseas, their spouse, whether a husband or a wife, will actually take a leave without pay for 3 or 4 years to go and serve this nation in different capacity and come back again and continue with their profession. This bill is trying to do away with all this. So, Speaker, sir, in some sense, this bill is very discriminative and punitive. It's discriminative in the sense that, Mr. Speaker, sir, people are discriminated on the basis of age. So, Speaker, sir, for sure, all the jobs we have in this country are not necessarily for the youths. There are some jobs that require serious experience, serious expertise, serious knowledge of substance matter for us to really be able to adequately serve this nation. It can be a job at the UN, at the World Bank, at IMF. Mr. Speaker, and these other countries actually tend to give those positions to very experienced, highly educated people with very special expertise to go and serve those nations in those institutions. So we have to be realistic and live with the realities of this world. So, Speaker, so it's some jobs that actually for all people, and we must appreciate. And while we also appreciate the need to give opportunity for our youth. So it's discriminative in that sense, which is actually a serious issue, which is actually unconstitutional as far as our supreme law is concerned. The Speaker, is punitive in the sense that if somebody is to serve more than 6 months in active capacity, they will not be compensated. They will not be paid their allowances or their salaries. So, Speaker, in some recruitment, it may even take a year or so before somebody who is capable and who is well targeted for that position is hired because of many reasons. Mr. Speaker, there are jobs which require special skills, special expertise and education. So we have to be realistic. So until at committee stage, it's amended so that all these realities are taken care of, and we ensure that this bill is not discriminative and punitive. As of now, I oppose. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. The Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, member for Kitui Central.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for also giving me time to also add my voice into this important bill. Honorable Speaker, I must thank the mover for this bill. And I think when you look at this bill, Honorable Speaker, what it is doing is not changing anything to do with retirement age. What it is doing, it is moving retirement age from a regulation to be determined in a regulation to be part of an act. So in terms of enforcement, it gives it more power, and I think that is important. But Mr. Speaker, looking at what is happening in this country currently, I think it's high time we started asking the hard questions whether this age of 60 really is the age which we need people to retire at. Because for you to determine retirement age, there are quite a number of factors which need to be considered. You must consider time when the time taken by people before they die, the average death rate, what we call the lifespan of an individual. You must also look at the skills development. And really, because anytime you visit offices, and Mr. Speaker, this is also happening in this house has passed so many of these individuals who are above 60 to head institutions. So you start asking yourself, is it that we don't have really the skills at the lower level, or are we saying we need to look at our retirement age? But to me, what is critical, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the 6 months probation period, where we are saying now, after 6 months, it's either you confirm or you sack. And I think that is important, Honorable Speaker, because, Honorable Speaker, in this country, you hardly find a position where there is no deputy. Most positions have a deputy. And the question is, if you have a deputy who has been really deputizing you for a number of years, and you're acting for 6 months, then if you don't qualify, your deputy should be able to take over. But what is happening in most cases is that the appointing authorities are kind of taking time to look for the right person in quotes. And I think that's why we have a problem, Honorable Speaker, that I've been deputizing you for so long, and when that opportunity for me to go up there comes up, then we bring somebody from outside. This really demoralizes those who are already inside. And for me, I think this is a very important clause, that after 6 months, the appointing authority has no choice, either confirm or sack that one and then upgrade another one from the system. In that case, we'll have proper, what we are calling succession planning. And the other thing, Honorable Speaker, is so long as we clock the top, then the bottom will never remain open. And that's why we have not changed with our youth. Our youth are completing colleges. We have we have all actually cadres. We have accountants, we have economists, we have engineers. But because you have clocked the top, then the bottom does not open for them to join. And I think this is where the civil services are challenged. They must plan well that by the time people complete university, you have a way of joining, because they always join at the lower level. You'll never see a fresh graduate becoming an executive in an organization. You'll never see them taking the top positions. But if the top, we are keeping somebody there up to the age of 70, then obvious the bottom is also not moving up. So I think we really need to plan properly for succession, so that as people grow old, they move to the next level, and when you hit your 60, Honorable Speaker, you need to exit. And Honorable Speaker, what people do after 60, because they are very experienced and they have skills, then that's the time you go for consulting. Instead of working for one individual, then you can work for many clients because you have the skill. If you are an accountant retiring at 60, or you are an auditor, then you become a consulting auditor or a consulting accountant. You can do for many people. And I think if you go that way, Honorable Speaker, then we will be helping the human skill in this country. The human resource in this country is actually underutilized. We have so many people trained who are not getting jobs. And we need proper planning for human resource. Because even though some of us who have these issues of production, factors of production, Honorable Speaker, human resources are a key factor of production. And it's the one which drives all the other factors. So if you don't manage it well, you'll have a problem. And that's what I want to say. I'm a member of the Committee of Administration and Internal Security, and I will be supporting some of the amendments so that we streamline this area to get the best out of our employees and employees of the public service. But before I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I think at this level, because we are policy makers, we need to think of serious policies which create employment. You know, you don't create employments by having unplanned programs or projects. You create employment by coming up with a very well-structured programs which are going to make sure that our youth get employment, and we expand the employment space. In that case, then, we'll be assisting the young ones. But I really sympathize with the empathy.
The Honorable Makali, you remember that you decided that we'll only be speaking for 5 minutes. But what you're saying is very, very valid and good for all of us. The Honorable Mwirigi Paul, member for Igembe South.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to thank Honorable Benjamin, for bringing this bill in this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill is cut crossing. It's not is favoring from the age of 59 and below, Mr. Speaker, meaning that all the youth and the elders also are catered in this bill. Mr. Speaker, what the bill is seeking is to now to make a law whereby 60 years is in act, whereby we can hold accountable the appointing authority, Mr. Speaker, accountable of extending the age limit. Mr. Speaker, in this country, more than 70% of the young people are not employed. And the reason is that the jobs which are given in this country are recycled for the aged people to get positions, Mr. Speaker. Whereas we know after the age of 60 years, Mr. Speaker, somebody should be enjoying his retirement, whereas the fresh blood is active in office doing some new input there, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, this will help to reduce the graduates who have graduated just the other day, Madam Speaker, will be able to get employed in offices. Because for instance, or currently, the ones who are being employed, Madam Speaker, are the cronies of the leaders and the people who own the offices. So it is good for this regulation to be now enacted as a law so that we can have a mandatory retirement whereby somebody should leave our office and live for the ones who are from school. Something else, Madam Speaker, this bill is seeking to guide on the acting officer in office, whereby our officer who extends 6 months term acting in an office should be confirmed or maybe quit, something which is not the case in this country, because we have experienced in many offices, Madam Speaker, whereby some officers act for a long period without being confirmed. So this bill also will help to speed up for the confirmation of the acting officers. Also, this bill, Madam Speaker, will help whereby some of the employing entities retain people because of their skills. Whereby they say, maybe let us retain somebody because he has a certain skill to use in a certain field, Madam Speaker. It will help those people now, these offices now, to prepare a successor. Because when you reach an age of 50, 55 and above, you know that you are exiting the office. Now you have a chance to prepare somebody else behind you so that he can succeed after your retirement. So, Madam Speaker, I support this amendment, and I beg the House to support so that at least we can earn or we can create more employment for the young people. Thank you.
Very well spoken. Of course, the Honorable Mwingi Paul, member for Ingembe South, that is speaking for the youth, is the youngest member of Parliament, the 12th Parliament. The member for Navajo, Honorable Wangwe Emmanuel, and again.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to also add my voice by supporting this bill with the proposed amendments to it. when it comes to the Committee of the Whole House.
Very well, and you know the procedure of the House, of
Yes,
course.
of course.
It's very welcome, thank you.
That's okay. When it comes to the Committee of the Whole House, Madam Speaker, this bill has not provided a second route, and that's why I'll be looking at it and say the exceptions to the rule must be put, since they are putting it into the Act from the regulations, so we'll have to put exceptions, especially touching on the issue of 6 months. That rule should really become very clear, so that there are some situations where an employer has given leave of absence, has given leave to a manager, so it has no choice but to bring in a second person to act. That is a very valid exception, which we'll be now recommending during the Committee of the Whole House, so that we look into it. However, I support the issue of the 60-year mandatory to retire, because, Madam Speaker, the attitude that one has to work for 60 years since he was born should work for 60 years. After graduation, maybe another 40 years, that is not long gone. We feel the civil service should be entry, Madam Speaker, to allow the youth so that they accumulate capital to go and do business, maybe at the age of 40 or at the age of 50. Therefore, Madam Speaker, it's important that those people who are in the civil service should know that they should provide an avenue for the young ones to come and join into the job market. They should not take it like, Honorable Speaker, this is the area of permanency. This is where they are to stay until when they retire and go home. At the end of the day, Madam Speaker, you are retiring at the age of 40. The natural justice ability says, Honorable Speaker, that you will now fall sick at the age of 60 by virtue of your age. So that time you have very limited room to do some business and run around. Therefore, it's important to encourage our citizenry to start doing business at an early stage, whereby they are able to run around by virtue of their health. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I support this bill, so that let everyone know that at the age of 60, he should be packing up to go home, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, when it comes to the issue in the bill touching on the 6 months, we had a case here for NGCDF. We have cases here, Madam Speaker, of MDs who have been acting for 6 years. An MD, Honorable Speaker, when he has made a mistake, you find that he's not able to execute his mandate as an MD. So he relies on the board chair. Then, Honorable Speaker, in case of a mistake being done either by virtue of willingness or maybe by virtue of commission, he is not able to explain himself because he is not substantive, Madam Speaker. It is important we now anchor it into the law and let it be an act, so that the vulnerables, those people who cannot defend themselves because they are the ones seeking for employment, let us speak for them and make sure that the employer, who in this case most of the time is the public service, should know that at the age of, after 6 months, a certain corporation will fall vacant, and so it's the duty of a public service to plan and replace that officer. Madam Speaker, failing to plan simply means you are planning to fail. And if the civil service, the public service cannot plan well in terms of succession, it means it's failing the generation which is behind us. For example, Madam Speaker, today, the public service has had a very good program of interns. And yesterday, the Commission issued a notice of recall, Madam Speaker, that all interns should now sign their exit as yesterday, Madam Speaker. Meaning, all the interns who have been working for 6 months are all going to go home and again become jobless, Madam Speaker. That means our civil service has planned to fail. What plans do they have for these interns to go and do? What models have they input into them to do? Therefore, Madam Speaker, it's important we put this sense into the public service so that they work for Kenyans, they plan for the youth, and let us support the youth who graduate from our universities with good knowledge, good brains, good skills, and they should now also be supported in terms of raising their capital once they get a jobs into the market, Honorable Speaker. With that, I beg to support.
Very well. The member for Bomachonge Borabu constituency, Honorable Ogutu Abel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make my contribution to this amendment. Madam Speaker, I want to start by saying that I fully support the amendment. Having said this, Madam Speaker, I want to say that as a nation we are growing. And if we have to make strides that do not take us back, we must put in the course measures that will hold us wherever circumstances or situations don't work in our favor. The retirement age has been an issue in this country, simply because as a nation, we have not seriously looked at how to open the space of jobs. We are only struggling to ensure that our human resources go through the limited opportunities that have been in existence and the little that are created. I want to say that I would like to see a nation when we say that the 60 age limit is not an issue. And this nation can only be created by this House through the policies and legislations that we make, which will ensure that we are able to create jobs, including by the CEOs who are to retire at the age of 60, that they should be assessed based on how much they have been able to create jobs, what they are novice. At the same time, as my colleagues have already said, I think it's important for us to look at successful CEOs based on their exit strategy, which includes how they hand over power or leadership to those who take over from them. In most cases, most CEOs will work to strain and even delay their succession. I think it needs to be very clear from the Public Service Commission that in assessing the performance of CEOs, they need to look at the CEO's ability to hand over leadership, and that's the element of succession. I want to say that even as we discuss this very important amendment, there are institutions in the country that are not running, not because there are no manpower, but because the recruitment process has delayed. I have in mind the universities with the councils, and about 18 universities have no councils, about 6 universities, 7 universities have no vice chancellors, many other universities have no top management. And this is an element partly resulting from poor retirement and recruitment process. Madam Speaker, I want to say that let us as a nation be open to allow Kenyans compete for opportunities that are created. Opportunities which exist, which can be earned on merit, which can be earned on experience, other than delaying and dodging the recruitment processes to scuttle the running of our institutions. Madam Speaker, I want to finish by saying that when we talk of compulsory retirement, we are actually talking of giving Kenyans or giving every Kenyan an opportunity to contribute substantively to the growth and development.
Very well. The member for Funyula, Honorable Hondo Ojambo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this bill. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate or thank our colleague who has come up with these amendments to Public Service Commission Act. Honorable Speaker, the spirit of the amendment is twofold. One, to have adequate succession planning, and secondly, to create room for upward mobility of the young graduates, mid-level workers, or middle-age workers to rise in the civil service. On that score, Honorable Speaker, it is a commendable amendment that all of us need to support without condition or reservation. However, Honorable Speaker, two issues are clearly emerging. The first issue is the issue of succession planning. Indeed, any trained HR person, any serious board of directors, any serious policy-making board of any organization must always prioritize succession planning at any given time, to an extent that it looks ridiculous and it's actually a dereliction of duty or failed governance for somebody to get to a point of retirement and he cannot be allowed to go for retirement because there's nobody competent enough to take over those positions. We sit in so many other committees where many of the accounting officers will come and tell you they retain somebody on payroll, on contract basis, because there wasn't anybody competent. We suppose, with the passing of this amendment, the Public Service Commission, the relevant boards will prioritize succession planning and ensure that within the rank and file, they start preparing people or persons to take over positions that people exit. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the retirement age. The amendment simply moves the prescription of the retirement age from regulations to the main act. It's a welcome move, but obviously we must be cognizant that there will be circumstances within the civil service that generally require the retention of some cadre of employees who probably have exceeded the retirement age. I wouldn't imagine probably tying a whole head of state that he must probably employ or appoint somebody of a certain age in certain positions. So it is important probably at that particular time, or the committee of the whole house, we need to move an amendment to the further amendment to give circumstances under which the same can be varied or allowed the discretion of some appointing constitutional positions. Honorable Speaker, and then also this brings into question is that the issue of employment. I think we seem to have dramatized this issue of employment in the civil service. Indeed, all over the world, the civil service is becoming leaner and smaller. Places of employment are no longer in the public service. Places of employment are in entrepreneurship and indeed in the private sector. It's a challenge that goes to all of us, especially as parents, to culture and condition our children not to believe the only form of employment is white-collar job employment or employment where you have a desk, a telephone extension, and a swinging chair. That's when you think you are employed. TVET, technical skills, that's where the money is. And those do not require, you not bother about retirement age. In principle, Honorable Speaker, I support reservations. As I conclude, we must invest in our youths, giving them wheelbarrows, giving them slashers, giving them nondescript tools is really an act of disrespect and an act of extending poverty among our youths. Honorable Speaker, those few remarks I support.
Very well. The member for Oiru, Honorable Kingara Nganga. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm sorry for giving me this opportunity to share on this important amendment bill. I want first to thank Honorable Mwangi because of thinking ahead. Honorable Speaker, it defeats sense when it is said after 60 years you are going to retire. Then at the same time, Madam Speaker, you have worked maybe for 3 years and then an extension of 5 years is given. It defeats logic. So surely, if we were to prosper and even accommodate the upcoming skills from our schools, we have to create a real exit. And Madam Speaker, the government sector is the benchmark of how we should do things. Because, Madam Speaker, if the government is not adherent to the set age limit, then the private sector will follow suit. And actually, you will find that those who are getting skills from school will have no opportunity to work. Madam Speaker, as it was said before by other speakers, when you are given an extension or when you are acting, sometimes you find yourself earning 2 salaries. There is a role which you have been given, then you are given to act, and you hold like 2 jobs, and yet we are talking of unemployment. Madam Speaker, it is important that we adhere to what we have set as basis of working. And also, Madam Speaker, one would ask, why an age limit of 60 was put? If it had no reason, then it wouldn't have been there. If it were for extension, and maybe that's where the amendment is coming, the extension should have a specific limit which should be adhered to. And lastly, Madam Speaker, we need also to set by example, how...
Honorable Sankok. Honorable Sankok. Honorable Sankok, you are out of order. And let me get the intervention first by Honorable Chris Omala before I get to Honorable Sankok, who is totally out of order. What is the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm rising on a point of order over the conduct of Honorable Sankok 001. Of course, we appreciate the entry of Honorable John Waluke. And as Parliament, there's a way of communication. He has been here for 2-3 years now. Is he in order, Madam Speaker, to start clapping the hands and the manner in which he has conducted himself? Of course, we recognize Honorable John Waluke and we welcome him. Thank you.
Very true. Honorable Sankok, now you are doing your third year in the House. Allow me say that you are out of order. You know the procedure of the House. We don't clap our hands. Neither do we eat desks. This is not a baraza. This is not a fighting area. You know how to do it if you want to clap. You call it appreciating. Honorable Waluke, there's a business with you. Please, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to apologize because I was just excited.
Apologize for what? Apologize, you must go on record.
Because of clapping my hands, because of the entry and backing the table. Because of the entry of Honorable Waluke, all of us, he's a colleague, we are actually excited. Honorable Speaker, remember I don't have legs. So when I'm excited, I have to use whatever I have. Now that it is God that did not give me the legs, He gave me the hands and the mouth. So I use the hands and sometimes the mouth. We have
no exception for conducting ourselves differently. You know what you can use better and do the right way. You know you have legs, they may not be all, they may be more, but you know how to do it down there, how the members do it. But you are just banging. You are out of order. Thank you for accepting that you are out of order and you have apologized. Now, members, please let us have decorum in the House. It is part of us. Yes, the Honorable, we took here 2 minutes. Yes, give him the 2 minutes to just finish his contribution.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I conclude by saying this, Madam Speaker. Because of the common extensions, Madam Speaker, it have come to as it has become an attitude whereby when somebody is nearing 60, he or she starts campaigning for an extension which is readily available. If we can manage people to work within the time set, I think we will be doing good to our youth and the entire country. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Very well, very well. The Honourable Member for Kisero constituency, the Honourable Wangaya Aseka.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I also rise to support the amendment that tries to ensure that there is proper succession plan within the entire public service. Honorable Speaker, I want to defer to say that it's not that we are creating employment opportunities for the young people by ensuring that we retire old ones at 60 years. Public service, as it is established, is a small area whereby not all Kenyans can be employed. We have also, Madam Speaker, to look at the Big Four agenda within which the President has given to this country. That within the Big Four agenda, there is an aspect of manufacturing and industrialization which tends to create more employment opportunities. As a House, I think we are called upon as a nation and as a government to ensure that we rise up and support the innovations, the creativities within our youth population so that we can create more employment in the informal sector and in private sector. Honorable Speaker, I'll also be seeking amendment to this during the committee of the whole House, that if really we want to cap the retirement age of people within the civil service at 60 years, then also in our elective positions, we should also cap that every person beyond 60 years should not vie for any elective post. I support, Madam Speaker.
Very well, very well. I can hear the members appreciating, but members, you don't also shout. You'll have your time to contribute and say yourself. The member for Dagoretti South, Honorable Waweru Kiarie, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, the opportunity to speak to this bill is not taken for granted, and I thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to first start by congratulating a neighbor, the Honorable Benjamin Gadhiru Mwangi, for successfully processing a bill and eventually having it land on the floor of this House, and in fact, a very meaningful bill, Madam Speaker. I'd like to say that from the general look of this bill, Madam Speaker, the objective is actually to tidy up how we go about employment in relation to the opportunities that we give to the people that serve in the different positions in this country, Madam Speaker. What happens is that there are so many laws out there, Madam Speaker, that speak to this issue. However, this one seeks to find a way of tidying up two very critical issues, Madam Speaker. The first issue, and I see it as a very important issue, Madam Speaker, is the issue about people earning allowances beyond serving as, after serving as, or acting capacity, Madam Speaker, for over 6 months. In Nairobi, we've had a case where we've had a member of county assembly acting as a speaker of the county assembly. And Madam Speaker, in the time that this particular member was serving, they were receiving the full perks as a member of county assembly and also receiving the full perks as a speaker while they were acting. Madam Speaker, such a law will be able to curb some of these things, Madam Speaker, because we understand that if you're given an opportunity to serve for 6 months, Madam Speaker, you have already proven your mettle. You've already proven what you're able to do. So if you cannot prove that in 6 months, Madam Speaker, you might never be able to prove it, even if you are given 6 years. And for that reason, Madam Speaker, I really support what Honorable Benjamin Gadhiru is trying to do. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to mention that you are...
I'm allowing you, was trying to consult, but I can see you and hear you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, the honorable member was consulting.
The second issue or mischief that Mheshimiwa Gadhiru is seeking to remedy here is this issue about what we have to say about retirement in this country. Madam Speaker, there are people who will argue that the honorable member is being ageist. But I'd like to say, Madam Speaker, that there are some realities of life. That one is born a toddler you become a child, eventually you become an adult, and finally you become an octogenarian. And I'll give a personal example, Madam Speaker. When I was young and in the youth movement, I was one of those people who argued almost violently against people beyond the age of 35 acting on behalf of the youth. And Madam Speaker, when I was elected into this August House, there are people who approached me and asked me to join the National Parliament's Youth Caucus, or the KYPA. And I say to them, Madam Speaker, that I do understand the times. And for me, at age 40, I found it sacrilegious to be at KYPA because I knew my time in the youth movement had passed. So, Madam Speaker, I know there's a difference between being young and being youthful. I'm still youthful, but I am not young, Madam Speaker. I'd like to say that if this is implemented, Madam Speaker, the bill is implemented as it is going to help us utilize the new knowledge of young people who will be coming into service at a time where older people are retiring, because we know the world is moving very fast, Madam Speaker, and there are new technologies, there are new knowledge that needs to come into the workforce, and this bill will ensure that even as young people come in, the older people get upward displacement. And this upward displacement does not condemn someone to go and die. Madam Speaker, when you are upwardly displaced, you serve in a higher office. And even in the tradition of organizations, Madam Speaker, we know the place for boards where people superintend over secretariats at an older age. Madam Speaker, I'd like to leave it there because I see my time.
Very well, yes. For that matter, members, again, for your planning, pass on to our resolutions of the House, debate to such matters on the bill as we passed it. Every member has 5 minutes. Let me have the Leader of Majority, Honorable Amos Kimunya, who's also the member for Kipipiri.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me start by saying I support the bill in principle, and I congratulate the member for bringing it. But I have a few reservations that I would like to bring to the attention of the House, and I hope we shall tidy up this by the time we get to the Committee of the Whole, so that we achieve the objectives of the bill, but at the same time do not end up creating more problems with the solution. Because solutions should not create problems, should actually solve a problem. I agree in principle that we need certainty in terms of succession planning, and that we should not have positions being held in an acting capacity forever. However, when you now look at the bill, much as it addresses the issue of somebody in an acting capacity, it doesn't say acting, the circumstances under which one is appointed to act. So it presumes that everyone is acting just because of a vacancy falling, a position falling vacant. We have situations where an officer will go on study leave, and somebody will be appointed to act in their position until they come back. And that could be for 1 year. Now, and you see, in those kind of situations, you cannot then tell the person who has been told to act that they will only be paid for 6 months. After that, they'll be forced to continue acting, but they'll not be paid. So there are some issues we have not addressed to separate the different circumstances in which people act. We also know how long the recruitment process takes in this country. We created this new animal called public participation. We've created so many variables into the recruitment process. And it is not unlikely that a position could fall vacant, but the recruitment process then takes longer than 6 months. So you are now punishing the person who will be acting by telling them they want to be paid for 6 months and nothing after that. So for this to work, we will need to bring in some amendments, some provisos, so that we know that, yes, where a position is already vacant, what are the provisos that we'll be providing so that we don't punish the person, but we ensure that the position is filled as soon as possible. Now, the other Studies have also shown that people could be productive beyond 60, in their 70s. They've acquired some experience. They may need to be retained until a suitable replacement is found. And that is the reason why this was contained within the regulations rather than within the law. So that dynamics as they change, the age could even be shifted from 60 to 50, right? But it's easier to amend within the regulations than within the law, because a law, for it to pass here, could well take into 1 year plus, and what happens? So again, we'll be looking at this, and before we come to the committee of the whole, we'll see what amendments we can bring, because we also need to ensure that whatever we are doing cannot be challenged from its constitutionality. I had a member wanting to extend this thinking even to elected officials. And I wish he was here, because we would have the constitution, even presidential age limits were, the entry point was 35 years. And then there was no upper limit. And when that was attempted to be introduced in the 2010 Constitution, we were reminded of Article 27, yeah? Which had already said that nobody can be discriminated on account of age, yeah, from aspiring for office. So long as you are a registered voter, which means you must be over 18, then you can even vie for presidency. Now, even as we try to bring in that you must retire at 60, right, to the provisions of Article 27, that the only reason you are saying a person cannot continue contributing to their nation is on account of age, which then becomes a violation of their rights, which is guaranteed by Article 27. So I think we need to balance between all these things. The intentions are good to make sure that people can retire at a certain age. But we cannot also do legislature on things that then will be deemed to be unconstitutional, because you are now discriminated a person on account of their age, that because you are now 60, you must retire, which goes against the Constitution. Because we did not have those provisos within the Constitution to say, except for people working in a certain service. It's a blanket thing. Nobody can be discriminated on account of their gender, blah, 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 race, and age. Yeah? And it doesn't say entry point or exit point. And that's why the entry point for presidential election or for any election was not capped either way. Yeah? But it's capped through that you must be a registered voter for you to be, and obviously that you must be of the age of majority. Otherwise, minors cannot make a decision for themselves or even for the people, so they cannot represent anyone. So I think I congratulate the member, but I want us, the House, to take cognizance of those two issues, that A, in terms of the acting, how long a person can act, we need to tie that to the circumstances under which the person is acting. It's not possible to do otherwise. And also, two, the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. Once we harmonize that, then we'll be good to go in terms of achieving the objective of this bill. I think with
Very well. Of course, this has been a house of debate, and this being the second reading. Members, those who have just come in, we are on the Public Service Commission. Mwangi is in the house, and I'm sure he's noting those provisions or those proposed amendments or proposed information, either to enrich. Members, again, you know the procedure. You're at liberty, and you have to make your own also amendments. Of course, the Constitution is key. And since we usually have the third reading in the process bill making, the third reading where we bring these amendments, I'm sure most of those things we can, and it's possible to be incorporated as far as the making of the law is concerned. Let's move to the next member, Honorable Member for Isiolo North, Honorable Olufohoda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this bill. I'd like to start by thanking the member who has introduced this amendment. Madam Speaker, we have a huge population of youth in our country. I do agree with the leader of majority that setting the age of retirement at 60 does not necessarily mean that we will have all our youth being employed in the public service. However, moving that requirement from regulation to a statute is a good thing, such that unless there are extraordinary circumstances under which certain Kenyans will be required to hold public offices beyond the age of 60, then as a country we need to have a law indicating clearly that once somebody has attained the age of 60, having served in the public service, then the person should retire honorably. Madam Speaker, the other aspect which this particular amendment has touched on is the issue of people who are acting in offices. We have had situations where individuals have been allowed to act for close to even a decade, to the extent that when those offices are supposed to be filled, it becomes a challenge. An example is when we were dealing with the filling of the CEO for National Government Constituency Development Fund. Such a thing should not happen unless maybe a Kenyan is required from office under certain special circumstances, under circumstances where the CEO has exited and the vacancy needs to be filled. There is no reason why somebody should act for more than 6 months. I think this amendment will help us to seal that loophole. We have had situations where are actually forced to be at mercy of the board, the chairs of the board and board of directors. And when somebody is acting, that makes you vulnerable to manipulation by the board. And therefore, I see this as something which is also very, very important. But as members who have spoken before me has indicated, when it comes to third reading, we need to make provision for special circumstances where acting beyond 6 months could be allowed, and also where certain Kenyans, because of probably their unique skills and knowledge, could be allowed to work on contract beyond the year 60. Thank you very much, and I support the amendment.
And you support the amendment very well. Now let me have the member for Sirisia, the Honorable Koi Waluke.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance also to contribute. I've been away for some time, Madam Speaker, for almost 4 months. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all the members of this House, those who stood with me during the difficult time that I had, Madam Speaker. And I want to let members know, and the nation, that I did not steal, and I'm not in the custody, in jail, for almost 4 months. And I've learned a lot. It is a very big experience, Madam Speaker, that I've learned that there are prisoners in prisons who have been killed, some without any mistakes. And I want to let the members of this House know that there are many of their constituencies, prisoners, some with petty offenders with maybe a fine of 1,000, 2,000,
Honorable Waluke.
3,000. Madam Speaker, sorry.
Yes,
let me continue with the
even as you do that,
with the motion.
You can marry your debate, whatever you do with the Public Service Commission.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the member who brought this amendment. Talk of retirement age 60. Everybody born as a child and grow to an old person. It depends with the time that stay on this land. retirement age is now 60. It used to be 55 before. And Madam Speaker, with the very many youth cracking for jobs, tarmacking, even on our committee who have completed even the universities, Madam Speaker, they knew that when you work for that, up to that age of 55, I think you will be exhausted. And because people want, in this country, if you cannot put a age limit, and I've been even approached, Madam Speaker, people can work up to even 90 years, 80, 90, retiring by age of being energy. You can plan for the rest, the remaining that the court will give you to live, instead of working up to age of 60. Madam Speaker, I have a lot to discuss, Madam Speaker, but due to time, I want to leave it there. I want to appreciate, and I want to say thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, and welcome back to the House, Honorable Member for Sirisia. I can tell from the members you're doing the right thing, that they appreciate in your presence around. Let me have the member for Kabondo Kasipo, Honorable Barakini.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And most public service today, the retirement age is 60. And this has been on for many people retire at 60. So there's nothing new in this, that the retirement age is 60. Madam Speaker, the problem really could be enforcement of this regulation. But enforcement, and I want to say, without fear of contradiction, that probably only 15% or 85% have complied, public servants have complied with this regulation. Probably 10 or 15% only have not, and this could be abuse. I would call it even an abuse of office, because they know that the retirement age is 60. Two, on the sea, there's a crisis on that area. And you have seen in areas where boards attempted to extend beyond the 60, they were actually stopped by the courts. A case in point is power, the Kenya Power and Lighting, and you saw that the courts were able to overturn that, and the CEO 60. And when you talk about board, it goes beyond 60. And boards are not staff, and they are not employees earning the benefits of the rights of the staff that we are talking about here. They're taking jobs that youth should be doing. So we have to be very clear on what we are talking about. And when we talk about issues of acting, Madam Speaker, there are different types of acting that was even raised by the majority leader. You act.
Honorable Ivo Barra, good information, but due to interest of time, you will have a balance of 3 minutes when the debate of the same will appear on the order paper. So please plan your time. You'll have a balance of 3 minutes, and you will always have the priority in speaking to the same. Other members? Other members, the debate on the bill will still have 43 minutes. In the next time it will be debated, as it will be slotted in the order paper and directed by the House Business Committee. The time being 1 p.m. Remember, this House stands adjourned till Thursday, 1st October 2020 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.